damn. I fucking love this restaurant, dude. Streamer personality, kill pro, pregnant women. That's a joke. But this website, this fucking delicious food is so good. Shit that I say, dude. Look, they even have this the blood. Look, they put it in a bag. I've never seen them do this before. Like, look at that, bro. Oh my god. I'm getting the real deal.
Today I'm going to be going over what I believe are the best and the worst psychiatric medications out there. Clearly this is opinionated and there's going to be a lot of hot takes, but this is just my opinion. To come up with this, I'm thinking about, what do I think about the drug effect and how useful it is, and what do I think about how bad the side effects are. And I guess the third variable in there is just a gut feeling, like how would I feel about myself or a loved one taking one of these medications if they needed to be on a medication. And I'm going to use that as my compass. So let's jump into this. If you look down at the bottom of the screen, you'll see that we have a bit of everything in here. I've done my best to grab what I think are the most popular and important types of drugs. And so you'll see we've got things like Parnate, that's an old MAOI. We have tricyclics in there. We have mirtazapine. We have Clozaril, which is an antipsychotic. We have a few different benzos like Klonopin and Xanax and Valium. We've got antipsychotics like Seroquel and Zyprexa. We've got stimulating antidepressants like Wellbutrin in here as well. And we also have some stimulants. And so this doesn't have every single medication on there, but I think it's covered the most important ones and the ones that most people are taking. What you'll see on the y-axis is down here, we have 1 for best. So these are the best ones in my opinion, and 6 for worst. And I think we just jump into it. So let's get something to sort of anchor this discussion. And I think a good one to start with would be a drug like Lexapro. Okay, so Lexapro is an SSRI antidepressant, and it has, generally like a numbing effect on people. Sometimes it can be a bit energizing, but the effect can actually be quite helpful for people at the beginning. People will say it's life-saving and that it's really helped them. The problem is that the effect wears off. And invariably, after a couple of years, people tend to be on the highest dose and the effect is wearing off. The other thing that really bothers me about this medication is sometimes it can trigger suicidal thoughts, especially if you're younger. It can cause horrific things like post-SSRI sexual dysfunction. And when you come off of it, you can get a brain injury. I mean, that is all clearly very, very bad stuff for a drug that really wears off over time. And so for that reason, and this is a hot take, and I know some people will not like this, I'm actually putting it over here in number 5. I actually think SSRIs in general are some of the most overrated psychiatric medications, mainly because they just wear off, and the side effects, if they do happen to you, can be really nasty. I'm going to put a few more SSRIs up there with Lexapro for the same reason. Paxil, except this one is even worse because it has such a short half-life. If you just miss like a day or two, you get horrific brain zaps. I'm going to put Prozac up there as well. I'm also going to grab Effexor and put that up there. All of these are quite similar. And let's see if there's anything else here. Trintellix, I'll put up there. And Pristiq. Pristiq is just as hard, causes the same issues, except it's really hard to taper off of because the manufacturer, the lowest dose they make is 25 milligrams, and they tell people that they can just step off 25 milligrams, and you can't. So a lot of people have withdrawal problems with Pristiq, and that's the same with Cymbalta, which I'm also going to put up there. All of these SSRIs and SNRIs, they are really bad news, I think, long term. That might probably be one of the hottest takes in this list. Now, let's grab something else. So let's have a look at this. Let's get some positivity in here. So Wellbutrin, this is an antidepressant. It's very different, though, from the SSRIs. While these are blunting medications that cause mood restriction, Wellbutrin generally tends to cause mood lifting. This is kind of what people probably think about when they think of an antidepressant, more motivation, a little bit more pep in your step. It's stimulating, it can help with focus. But the thing that I love the most about this medication is that it does not cause bad withdrawal. Sometimes you need to taper down off of it, but most people can stop it without much issues. And I actually think it is one of the safest psychiatric medications. And so if you have depression and it's not that super anxious type, it's more of that flat version, I think Wellbutrin is the safest drug to reach for. And I'm going to be putting that up here at number 2 as being one of the best medications to take. Okay, so the next medication that I'm going to go over is, let's do Adderall. Okay, so Adderall is a very stimulating medication. This is used for ADHD. I think lots of people will be very familiar with it. And gosh, it works. And it works even if you don't have ADHD. Anyone who's ever taken this can tell that this drug makes you focus. If it's the first time you're taking it and you don't take it a lot,
That
it can
is an
also make you
interesting
feel
drug.
euphoric. Unfortunately, the drug effect for this one also
increases
diminishes
monoamines,
over time. But there is
which is just
something
generally
really
good.
positive about a lot of
And
these
then it
strong
increases so much
stimulants,
like
and that is that they
traceamines as
don't
well.
cause, from my opinion, any serious neurological harm. You know, people aren't getting, brain damage when they come off of these medications. They generally are well tolerated. When I get people off them after,
Mentally, yes.
decades
That's
of
kind
use,
of the
they
point.
usually have some sedation and some fatigue. Sometimes that goes on for 6 to 12 months. But I tell you what, sedation and fatigue is a lot easier than the anxiety and the insomnia when people come off like SSRIs. And so I think they're actually the safest class of psychiatric medications. Obviously they
For
all have their
mind, they
risks.
have
You
hard
can have high blood
effects.
pressure with this. Sometimes they make kids irritable, sometimes even homicidal. Sometimes they cause high blood pressure. But generally, they are safer to take in the long run, from my opinion. And I'm going to put Adderall down there as one of the best medications, the one that I worry about the least. I'm going to put Vyvanse over there next to it as well, and also Ritalin. All of these, I think, are fairly safe, and I don't really worry about people being on these stimulating medications. Okay, so let's grab Zyprexa. Where am I
Ritalin
going
I'd
to put
put
this?
below Wellbutrin.
Well,
Because
you know
Ritalin has
what?
a
I'm
massive
going to put
abuse
this back
potential.
here for a second. I'm actually going to do some reorganizing because I think Zyprexa is worse than these antidepressants. So I'm going to put
Swap the
them
position.
all here on number 4 because I would actually like to put Zyprexa up here in number 5. Okay, so Zyprexa is an antipsychotic medication. Obviously, most people only take this if they really need to and they're having quite a lot of severe symptoms. Now, the issue with Zyprexa
Olanzapine, holy fucking Christ, that's a fucking antipsychotic.
is that the weight gain can be enormous.
I
And
took
so if you are a
Olanzapine.
woman and you are taking an antipsychotic, weight gain can be a big problem for you, and I've seen people gain, 50 pounds, sometimes even like 100 pounds off of it. And so you can have all of these metabolic side effects with Zyprexa. People generally don't like the way antipsychotics make them feel either. That's why sometimes people are forced to take them by injection or court order. And so while these drugs are quite potent and they have a lot of stopping power, that's kind of a crude way to look at it, but they really will bring down symptoms of psychosis. I would say the side effects are really nasty, and so that's why I would put Zyprexa up there. I'm going to put Seroquel up there as well as another drug that can cause a lot of metabolic problems and weight gain as well. And also Abilify, which has a bit of a twist. It's less sedating than Zyprexa and Seroquel as an antipsychotic, but it tends to cause some strange behaviors. People will develop gambling issues. They'll become hypersexual. They can develop a condition called akathisia more frequently than these other ones. And so this can be, again, it's not a drug that people really love being on in general. I know some people do, but many people don't. So let's get this next one here. So clozapine is a drug that probably a lot of people haven't heard about, or Klonopin, which is the generic. This is the Mac Daddy of antipsychotics. This is the apex predator. This is the drug that you reach for when everything else hasn't worked. And so most people who are on Klonopin have treatment-resistant, depression, schizophrenia, or bipolar. It can cause a lot of weight gain. It can cause a lot of sedation. People start to drool when they're on this medication. And it also can cause a bone marrow suppression called agranulocytosis, where it's almost like getting like AIDS. You stop producing the white blood cells which fight infections, and people can die from it. And because the side effects are so severe, it is rarely used unless everything else has failed. Now, this is not to knock the fact that clozapine does have its use case scenarios in people who are really sick, but most people on clozapine do not like clozapine, and the side effects are really bad. So I'm going to put this up here as one of the worst, not because it doesn't have a potent effect, but because the side effects can be so nasty. I'm also going to put up next to clozapine long-acting antipsychotic injectables. So these are essentially the versions of these things, like Abilify
But if it
or
was a long-acting
Invega or
amphetamine,
paliperidone,
completely
but
fine.
they're given to people who usually do not consent to taking the oral medications. They're administered by court order frequently, and it's essentially like you get a shot of this antipsychotic in your arm, and it just stays there for 30 days or 3 months or 6 months, depending on the version you get, and it slowly leaches into your system. It's hard for me to remember ever meeting someone who liked being on a long-acting antipsychotic injectable. They don't like the side effects. They have side effects like tardive dyskinesia, which is an involuntary movement disorder. Obviously, they work, but I would say most people don't like taking them. So I'm going to put long-acting injectables as one of the worst psychiatric meds to be on. Let's have a look at some of these benzos. So, Xanax. This one is tricky for me to talk about because I think short term, this drug is really effective and it doesn't cause a lot of problems. But let's talk about long term use. So, Xanax is a benzodiazepine. This is used for sleep and anxiety. If you've ever taken one of these, and I have, when you take it, if you tolerate it well, it's like falling into a nice soft cloud of peacefulness. And that's why it can be super addicting. And after you start, it's hard to stop. The thing that worries me the most about this medication is that it wears off quickly and people need higher and higher doses. So even after about 3 months of use, people will need like more and more of it. And it can be really hard to come off. The withdrawal from benzodiazepines is one of the worst out there. I would say it rivals coming off these SSRIs, which I'd say the SSRIs and benzos have the worst withdrawal out of any psychiatric medication, and it can cause brain damage when you come off it. And so for that reason, I'm going to park Xanax up here along with the other SSRIs. Not to knock that it has a very pleasurable drug effect, but it is really addictive. It's super hard to come off, and it wears off quickly. But if you just take it for like a flight, you're going overseas and you need to sleep or something like that, or you take a handful of them because someone dies and you're just having a really hard time, you're not going to have any issues. But long term, they're one
Surgery.
of the most dangerous psychiatric medications. I'm going to park Valium up there while we're at it. I'm also going to put Klonopin there. Oh, I missed Zoloft. I'm going to put Zoloft here with Prozac as well, and put Risperdal up here with the other antipsychotics. Okay, so let's grab mirtazapine now. Wow. So this is an antidepressant, just like it's a little bit different. It's an antidepressant, but it's not a serotonin reuptake inhibitor. It's not like Wellbutrin. It's something else. It's called a tetracyclic. So this is a drug that acts slightly differently. It generally has a blunting effect, but it also helps people with sleep. It has a histamine activity. The thing that I really like about mirtazapine is that it causes less sexual side effect problems. Like a lot of the SSRIs, they can cause PSSD, the persistent sexual dysfunction, and they can also cause, just most people have sexual dysfunction, pretty bad sexual dysfunction when they're on them. I don't see that with mirtazapine at all. I know some people have gotten PSSD from mirtazapine, but it seems to be much less common. And so I generally think of mirtazapine as a safer antidepressant, one that is a lot more tolerable. And so for that reason, I'm going to actually park mirtazapine there at number 3. And let's grab some of these other ones. How about Buspar? So Buspar doesn't get a lot of airtime. It's advertised as being kind of similar to an SSRI because it acts on the serotonin system, but it's not a reuptake inhibitor. It acts in a different way. The unique thing about Buspar is that it can be quite helpful for anxiety. It does cause a fairly similar
I've been on a majority of these drugs, or at least a plurality. How the fuck is it a plurality if it's 50-50? Got high on this. Got high on this. Didn't do this one, but I hope to get on it. Got high on this. Got high on this. Got high on this. Yeah, I did that and start again. I'm high on this, technically. I've done this, got high on that. Not really high, but just kind of weird feeling. Risperidone's a metabolite I did. Zyprexa is olanzapine, so I've done that one. Never done clozapine. I'm on IM of this. Effexor I did. Prozac I did. Ativan he leaves out, amusingly. But it is in these. I don't know what that is. Yeah, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Alright, fuck it, let's just say 12 out of 22 drugs ish. Oh, and this one. I don't know what those drugs
Emotional blunting type effect like the SSRIs, but I have to tell you, I've never seen someone develop protracted withdrawal from Buspar. While the withdrawal isn't easy, it does not hurt people the same way that benzos and SSRIs and SNRIs do. I'm not seeing a lot of reports about PSSD from Buspar, and my gut feeling about it is actually that it is a safer medication. And if you're one of these highly anxious people and you need to be on a serotonergic type antidepressant, I would go for Buspar. So it's not quite as potent as something like Paxil here, but if Buspar works for you, I'd say it's a safer medication. So I'm actually going to put that up there at number 2. So let's grab a couple other ones. Okay, so we got lithium here. Oh wow, lithium. Where to put this one? So lithium is a drug for bipolar disorder. Quite an old one. It's been around since the 50s. It's quite effective. People don't seem to hate lithium as much as they hate things like the antipsychotics. And so if you have to be on something for depression or bipolar, generally people like the feel of lithium more than antipsychotics. But the problem with lithium is that it can cause like renal damage and thyroid problems, and they can be permanent. And so I'm going to put them here in number 4, along with the benzos, because even with those side effects, like these antipsychotics, they can cause permanent movement disorders. So yes, lithium can cause permanent problems with the kidney and the thyroid, but the drug effect, the way people feel on the medication, does seem to be better. Some people, they like lithium, they like the way that it makes them feel. And so I think it deserves to be slightly better than the antipsychotics. I'm going to park Depakote next to it. Depakote doesn't cause those permanent thyroid and kidney problems. I don't feel like people like Depakote quite as much as lithium. But the problem with Depakote is, man, people gain a lot of weight on Depakote. And so I'm going to park it here. Lamictal. Now, Lamictal is not as strong as lithium and Depakote, but it can be quite helpful for people who are irritable. It's not a great medication for people who have a lot of mania, but if you have mild irritability or anger, this drug can be a good one to reach for. The withdrawal, it can be quite challenging. I'm trying to think, is this a 3 or is it a 4? I'm going to put it just here as a 3 because I think I'm less worried about the side effects. The side effects that most people don't realize with Lamictal is that it can cause autoimmune problems. But if you know that it can cause the autoimmune problems and you look out for them and then you stop the drug, it is a safer medication to take than the other ones. Let's grab Ambien. Oof, Ambien. God, I hate Ambien. I just don't know if I hate it enough to put it up here with the antipsychotics. I will, actually. I'm going to make an example of it because I don't know why you would ever take Ambien over just taking Xanax at night or Klonopin or Valium. See, the issue with Ambien is the half-life is so short. So many people go into interdose withdrawal during the day. They start to develop more irritability and mood swings. And so you're getting all of the same problems with the benzos, like the memory problems, and you're getting used to the drug really quickly and you need higher and higher doses. But then you also have that interdose withdrawal thing happening. It's a really hard drug to get people off of. And I think it makes people quite psychiatrically ill when they take it long term. So Ambien, Sonata, Lunesta, I wouldn't take any of that. I would just go straight to benzos if you're going to take something that has a slightly longer half-life and causes less mood instability. Okay, so amitriptyline. This might be a drug that a lot of people haven't heard of because these are old drugs. These are tricyclic antidepressants. They really came out during the 50s and 60s, and they were the first version before Prozac came and dethroned them. And Prozac really dethroned them, saying that it was safer because you can't overdose on it. And they're right. If you take too much amitriptyline, like if you're a doctor and you're giving out depression tablets, you're always worried that someone's going to overdose. It's really hard to overdose on Lexapro and Prozac. But if you take too much amitriptyline, you develop heart problems. And so you can have a cardiac arrest. The thing that is interesting about these tricyclics is that they tend to not cause withdrawal problems like the SSRIs at the same level. I'm not seeing a lot of protracted withdrawal injuries when people come off of them. And I think it has to do with the fact that no one really knows how these drugs work.
I have a different conception of drugs and mechanisms than he does. He thinks it's the drug class that makes it react the same or different, or in terms of withdrawal and damage. Well, like, just look at alcohol and methanol. Those are in the exact same drug class.
They are really dirty drugs. When they've tried to measure what they do, these hit alpha receptors, histamine receptors, noradrenaline, serotonin receptors. They're not like designer drugs like Prozac and Paxil, where they were engineered to just hit that serotonin receptor as hard as possible and bind it. These are tricyclic antidepressants. They're described by their chemical structure rather than what they do, because no one really knows what they do. And so I think because they have such a varied effect on the nervous system, they're probably not damaging any one receptor system as hard as these other antidepressants do. And so I think they're actually safer in withdrawal. Now, the downside of having a messy drug that hits a lot of receptor systems is that you get random side effects. So a lot of people will complain about having some like brain fog in the morning or dry mouth, and they don't like it. And so they're not great. I'm going to put it here at number 3. If I had to give an antidepressant to someone that I cared about, I might lean a little bit more, in this direction than to like the Lexapro and the Trintellix, just because, again, I'm not seeing PSSD, I'm not seeing protracted withdrawal injuries, and so these messier drugs, which hit multiple different receptors, they just seem safer to me. I'm going to put clomipramine up there as well. This is a tricyclic also that's used for obsessive compulsive disorder. And then also Parnate. Now, Parnate is different. This is also a super old antidepressant. It's a monoamine oxidase inhibitor, and it's quite stimulating. People like taking Parnate. People will abuse Parnate sometimes, and if you overdose on it, you can die. But if you're using it for someone who isn't really suicidal, generally people like the effect of this medication. It does not cause withdrawal problems. I do not believe it causes things like PSSD.
There was one fatty acid.
And so for that reason, I'm going to park Parnate here in number 3. And then finally, trazodone. Now, I've taken trazodone. Most people I know have taken this. This is the, quote-unquote safe sleeping medication that is not a benzodiazepine. And you're right, this drug does...
What the hell is it called? Oh, fuck. It is called... I'm thinking of the brand name. But yeah, this one is mu opioid, so it's kind of like buprenorphine. This one gets you high. Anyway.
Doesn't seem to cause a lot of withdrawal problems, but most people I know don't love the way it makes them feel. I had a particularly negative experience with it. It gave me like a headache in the morning, and it gives me dry mouth, and so I don't love it, but it's a pretty safe sleep aid. And so I might park it up here in number 2 as something that is quite low risk and can be fairly beneficial for people.
The fuck was that?
In number 2 as something that is quite low risk and can be in the morning, and it gives me dry mouth.
All right,
so I
don't
love it, but it's a pretty safe sleep aid. And so I might park it up here in number 2 as something that is quite low risk.
2025. Okay.
And can be fairly beneficial for people. Okay, so there you have it. That is my tier list for 2025 of what I think are the best and the worst psychiatric...
I don't know why I didn't Ativan.
medications. What did you think about this? I would love to
Ativan's
hear about it
crucial
in
in
the comments
psychiatry.
below this video.
If this video was interesting to you, be sure to check out this one right here.
I mean, there's a fine line that you have to play when it comes to doctors. They will medicate you if you give them symptoms to medicate you with. Or for, I should say. Oh, yes. Perfect. This is also what I got. I love this meal. God damn, it's a good restaurant. I knew nothing was in there. And they couldn't open. So it's completely clean. His wife died and he got addicted to benzos. Yeah.
consider going over to his, just seeing him for like, oh, this birthday.
I can see the temptation, but it's gonna be too deep into it.
No, I won't affect me.
You're here already. You're already back on the beach. How's his morning?
He's doing very well, actually. He has a low blood count, about 2.7 counts.
Okay.
And some hemoglobin.
Yeah.
And it's like lower than it should be after the treatment, so it could be she lived like a long time.
That's good. So she's doing well, or like she's responding well to the treatment.
Very well.
Oh, that's great news.
I don't know if like we can, because she's only done 5 weeks of it.
Yeah.
So.
But it's a good start.
Still recording, it says that.
That's a pretty thing.
She's saying crap.
Yeah, she says cool beans. She also says something's on my ass bananas. That's not something I would say.
Banana.
I did say instead of saying like that's wild or that's crazy, she goes, it's bananas. That's a quirky thing.
Oh yeah, I tried to give her a chair.
She didn't accept
No,
it?
she didn't accept it. It was in the office. I was like, oh shit.
It is in the office. Yeah.
Because I was like, that's not what I expected, right?
Yeah, it's the staff chair now.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that works.
Yeah. It's from friends to all of us.
She doesn't accept yet.
She's better than me then.
I mean, to be fair, you had like a wedding.
That's right, it was a special event.
Exactly. It wasn't like, because I don't know. What's Courtney again?
What's with that girl? She's bananas.
But she found it really hard to do.
I just think we're not supposed to accept them, so
That's
that was
what I
like
think.
that was like a rare occurrence for me to accept your chair thing as well.
Yeah, that's
So
right.
like typically
I'm not gonna, like,
typically it would be a no as well.
That happens.
Yeah.
Nobody even knows.
Brittany and I are pretty like outspoken with management, and it ends up getting us in a little bit of trouble. So we try not to do anything additional that would get flagged as troublesome behavior.
Well, I don't think it's with them. Do you actually have anyone that tests you for that?
Sure. No, but I just mean like in regards to like accepting gifts and stuff like that.
I don't make it a habit of giving stuff because I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Professional boundaries and
Yeah.
getting in trouble if I get sick. I've heard this at the hospital. If I get sick and I like use it against you or something like that, or like pretend that I never gave it to you.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
heard that happen. Didn't stop the people from getting gifts from me.
They still accepted them. Yeah, we're bad. I just feel like there's like negotiable boundaries and non-negotiable boundaries. Like some things are non-negotiable, but like there are some negotiable boundaries. But yeah, no more gifts.
Wow.
That's right. I got 2 now.
How do you ring your I mean, how do you gauge that your ring's
Well, we had to when I got my engagement ring. It was too big, so we had to go back to the workplace and get it sized. And they size it for you. Like he like I don't know what he did to make it smaller, but he made it smaller.
Oh, what number are you?
I have no idea.
I can't think of it.
Yeah, I don't actually know. He like put it on this. It was like this kind of like cylinder, and like gauged how big my finger was, and it gave him a number, but he didn't actually tell me what it was.
That seems weird.
Yeah, so I have no idea what my ring size is. Big fans of Holy Bible you got back there?
Yes, that is indeed. I got 4 of them.
You have 4?
2 there.
Mm-hmm.
1 there. 3rd book on the right side.
Mm-hmm.
And then 1 here.
I know.
Screw.
I saw the H and the spine, and I thought it was Howl's Moving Castle, but it's not. It's the Holy Bible.
Yeah.
It is indeed. That's cool.
Christian Bale in that Howl's Moving
Is he? I
Castle.
actually haven't seen it.
But I heard that he like Spirited Away so much that he yeah, he liked it so much that he was like, I need to be in it.
Really? That's cool. Good for Jack.
He also plays American Psycho.
Yes, he does.
Yes, he does. He does indeed.
He does.
Yes,
Your
I
favorite
confirmed
movie.
that.
No, no. You just like the movie, not the actor.
Yeah, no, pretty much. He's a wonderful actor. I think Johnny Depp is the most character.
Yeah, Johnny Depp is one of the characters.
You know what's going on, right?
What's going on?
Beeping. Wait for it. That's not what I'm talking about.
All the time? This is something I hear just from a car not that long ago.
Yes, it keeps going off.
Oh, there it is again. Does that drive you insane when you're like fast?
I don't even
Oh
notice
no, you put your earphones in.
it. See, we didn't even notice it.
Yeah. Oh, now I notice it. Maybe I said that.
I like to hear. Just kidding.
What are you talking about? Cool. Well, if it gets annoying, let me know. Or else they're having some issues with it. I don't know what the hell's going on.
Yes, I've heard that. Is there one in live in the protocol?
Ear munchers.
That's what I call them.
With Santa? Nice.
No, no, that is Santa.
That's Santa.
Yeah, Mabel Santa. Can't really see his face, or it's basically Santa. Very good Santa.
Mabel?
I'm the one on the left.
Oh, you're the one on the left. Michael is Santa. Okay. Where are these munchers? In the gym. Sitting in my brand new.
Yes. That is that's my phone as well.
Okay.
The one that you can really see my hands on. Meditation.
Cool.
That's my installation. Very proud of it.
Very nice. Yeah, gotta put it on the wall. Cool.
Fuck. Delicious foe. I hate these. Why does this dude bash drugs? If there is a drug, there is use for it. That is just a law that I have. And in terms of anecdotes, there's a guy here in the system around 30 years, NCRMD in BC. He was fucked. They tried him on every fucking medication until he got to Abilify, and now he's out. And it's like he says it saved his life. He says that, not anyone else. So like, if it causes a chemical lobotomy in like 9 out of 10 people, it doesn't mean you don't use it in the 1 out of 10. Because there's the potential to save lives. Like, fuck. Okay, I gotta go.